So here's what's taking place. In the Bible, Ezekiel 38, it talks about how there will be Russia, Persia or Iran, Ethiopia and Libya. And then it goes on to talk of a couple other countries, and it says this, and all of its hordes. In other words, they're going to take a whole group with them. It goes way beyond the small group of nations that are just named there, because it says, in all of its hordes, and it says, and many people with him. I think I sent a map, and maybe you can show it, but it's a picture of Africa. And on that picture of Africa, this is when they gave the announcement concerning the BRICS and how many countries are going to it. Well, every country in red has already committed to Russia. And about half the countries in white are lined up to commit once they get their stuff done. That says that really Africa is under the control of Russia. So here we are, we're playing games in the Ukraine. That was a distraction. The real prize was not to Ukraine. Russia could take Ukraine whenever they wanted to. I'm not even so sure that the leader of the Ukraine and Putin aren't playing back and forth, because they've gained so much. Ukraine has gained so much economically. It's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I read the stats today.
Absolutely. I agree. Just so you know, I agree 100%. And I think you and I have been agreeing since day one that I think we're being played by both Putin and Zelensky.
So here we're spending $3,100 on every Ukrainian. $3,100. In Hawaii, we haven't even spent $700 per person. That's on our own citizens. It's completely out of balance. And so somebody's gaining from this. And so while everyone's distracted by the Ukraine-Russian situation, that wasn't the prize. The prize was the Middle East. The prize was Israel. So now, here's our current administration. And of all things, they unfroze the assets of Iran. They gave him $16 billion. $16 billion. We talk like we traded for 5 prisoners, $6 billion. That's ridiculous. Why would you bargain with terrorists? Then we find out a week later that Saudi Arabia now is in a position that they're going to be the peacekeepers on the Temple Mount. And they say, hey, we have a peace plan. It seems like that's a quote from the Antichrist. And so, but the Biden administration has waved them on. We're at a situation in Africa. There's a large amount of gold there. There's uranium there. There's a pipeline that has been built. When we blew up the gas line, okay, even American companies said, wow, here's a market. It's going to be in Europe, and we can sell the oil. So they built a gas line, an oil pipeline. Now Africa is saying, why in the world would we allow people to take oil, gold, and uranium out of our country and make a profit, and we get nothing? So they said, we're done with Europe, we're done with America, we can't trust you because you don't even know how to deal the cards. And so they've committed themselves to Russia. Russia is laughing all the way to the bank tonight. But here's the good news. They can't go beyond the plan of God. And God said, it will be Rosh, it will be Iran, it will be all these countries, Gomer, Togarmah, it'll be Saudi Arabia. And all these hordes, we're watching the hordes line up tonight. I don't know that this invasion takes place before the rapture. I'm not discouraged tonight, because the Bible says, when you see these things coming to pass, lift up your head, your redemption draws near. I think that's how near we are, because you know what? This chaos that's worldwide, and it's in our country, where never before have you been able to say right is wrong and wrong is right. But tonight you can say that's exactly what it is. Whatever is right, I can be assured that this administration is going to go against it. We're going to arrest people that are innocent. We're going to fan people that we know are guilty. How much evidence do you have to make somebody guilty? Well, they've never. And so our whole system is thrown out of play. But if, as Americans, we should say, wow, we were just double-sided, blindsided, and we've lost the race in the Middle East. We've lost the race in Africa. And all they've done is soak all the money out of our country.
Indeed, we have. I was talking with a friend today who has a long storied background in national intelligence, and we were talking about the BRICS system and what's happening today. And I said, can you believe all the things that are happening? The destruction of America, right? They're destroying America economically, the crime. We've told criminals you can go in as long as you only steal under $1,000, we won't prosecute you. I see today there's been another looting of high-end stores in California. Again, we've opened our borders, literally welded open the border doors. Yesterday I reported and saw it again in the press today. People coming over, preparing the battlefield for the war. We're shipping our arms and our military equipment overseas. We're depleting our own. We've destroyed our military. And then as America is decreasing, we see that these nations are making a coalition together economically and militarily, just as you said out of Ezekiel 38. And now we see that Israel, Netanyahu, wants to make this relationship with Saudi Arabia such that they may give custody of the Temple Mount to Saudi Arabia, taking it away from Jordan. I mean, the timing with the Red Heifers now having left Texas earlier this year, flown to Israel, we're just a few months from having one of them meet the proper age and being a pure red heifer to be sacrificed, their ashes burned, mixed with water, and used to purify a temple or a tabernacle, a temporary building up on the Temple Mount, even temporary. And if you get Saudi Arabia in charge of the custody of the Temple Mount, Saudi Arabia cutting their deal with Israel, Saudi Arabia may say to Israel, hey, great, go ahead, put up your temporary tabernacle, and then go ahead and build your temple. We don't care. We'll have our mosque, you'll have your temple, everybody's happy. I mean, the way this is running tells me the Antichrist is very likely alive. The Antichrist beast system, you can't buy or sell. That's being put into place. I mean, it's shocking when you look at the convergence of events, but Saudi Arabia taking control of the Temple Mount, this is huge. Of course, as Dr. Woods and I have talked about, this might explain why in the Old Testament there, Saudi Arabia is sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out what's going on, and they don't take part in the invasion of Ezekiel 38 into Israel. We also have, as you've mentioned here, this train system being built from Saudi Arabia to Israel to bring people to the Temple Mount, a so-called holy site for both Muslims and Jews, correct?
Yeah. You know, it's amazing because first of all, you say, why are they building a train system that connects Saudi Arabia to Israel? Well, 6 months ago, we probably couldn't explain it. We can today. They have a train system now that's going to go from the Ben Gurion airport right to the Western Wall. In other words, they're preparing to have an agreement so that different religions can use the Temple Mount. There are several in Israel that are sticking up for I think what God's boundaries are. And his name is Ben Veer. He's a controversial guy. He's outspoken. I kind of like him because he goes with what he thinks is truth and not what he thinks is politically admirable. But isn't it amazing that with all these things, we come to this time of the year, and people in Israel, they call it Rosh Hashanah. That's the New Year, the Jewish New Year. But to those of us that enjoy the Bible, it's also called the Feast of Trumpets. And what's amazing is just in the last week, there's pressure put on Ben Veer to say, you know what, this year we want to blow the trumpet on the Temple Mount. I can show you an article. 2 months ago, a man with a cell phone played a shofar on the Temple Mount, and he was arrested. His phone was taken away for just playing it on a phone. Can you imagine if they're at a situation where they're actually going to allow a shofar to be there? You see, this idea that there would be peace, somehow they're going to negotiate peace. But I want to remind people, here's what the Bible says. Once they do that, and once the clock starts to tick of the 7 years of this peace deal, it says that the Antichrist comes and stops it in the middle. There was an interesting article, and I believe it's on our website, and it talks about a rabbi, and he says, wow, I don't trust these Christians. They are the ones who supplied the red heifer. As a matter of fact, he said, have you read their Bible? Their Bible talks about how that really Israel, when they do this peace agreement, when they begin to sacrifice, they're going to be stymied and they're going to partnership with an Antichrist. They're going to get double tricked. And with all this warning, I say, you know what? Here's one guy that's actually read the Bible. He said 2/3 of Israel is going to be, was going to perish. 1/3 will be saved. He said, should we really thank these Christians for bringing a red cow here that probably is going to open up sacrifices and probably going to welcome the Antichrist and not the Messiah? There's people that are aware that that's really the message of the Bible, and that is the message of the Bible, and we need to understand that's why this is a critical night, a critical moment, a critical time, not only the history of the United States, but the history of the world, because I think we're seeing God's plan fulfilled.
Well, I think we are. So let me ask you this. Where do you think things are going as we move toward this BRICS banking system? How do you believe this helps to strengthen that Ezekiel 38 coalition?
I think what it says is that, before, when it was Russia versus Ukraine, people were saying Russia's not very humane. Okay? When it comes down to their money system, they're going to say it doesn't matter if they're humane. What matters is their stability in their currency. Another picture to look at not only is Africa, but you understand the progress that's been made, because, see, China went down and they locked up South America. Russia went and locked up Africa. I really believe that those two countries, when they met together earlier this year, I really believe that they said, let's divide this. You take South America, we'll take Africa. And so what's amazing is that it's not just the currencies. That's big. But it's also the natural resources. China is the one who makes batteries. Without China's batteries, our electric cars can't go anywhere. Okay? We're now selling ourselves to electric cars, even though we have oil in our ground. And if we were smart, we could be pumping oil. We could be the leaders of the world. Why? Because we could manufacture stuff so cheap and so well. We could heat our homes. We could power our cars. We don't have to buy oil from our enemy. We've been buying oil from Saudi Arabia. We've been buying oil from Russia. You know what? We've even lost the airplane market. Saudi Arabia double-crossed us just now. Just this week, they're buying 100 to 200 French jets, and they're canceling the orders for American weapons. America's isolated. We've had it. We're down and we're done. But you know what? God promised that when we turn our back on Him, this is going to happen. Here's why I'm not worried. I know this, that God has His eye on the whole situation, and at exactly the right time, those that are believers, they're the bride of Christ, and He doesn't plan to beat His bride up in the tribulation. I think we're going to be called to heaven. But in the meantime, you know what I want to do? I want to be a watchman. I want to try to warn as many people as I can, hey, get back to the Bible, get back to God. I don't know if we can save America, but I know this. There's individuals, unsaved individuals, and they're saying, wow, isn't this what the Bible talked about? And the truth is, it's exactly what the Bible talked about.